He stood motionless, the flashlight's beam burning into his eyes. The crowd watched in tense silence as the tourist smirked, pushing his luck. Then, in an instant, everything shifted. The next moment left the crowd gasping, and the provocateur realized he'd gone too far. But let's start from the beginning. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We share the untold stories, secrets, and traditions of the British Guards every day. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. It was an early morning in London, and the majestic silhouette of Buckingham Palace stood proudly against the soft glow of dawn. The courtyard buzzed with the usual throng of tourists, cameras clicking, and voices chattering in various languages. Among the crowd was Mark Warren, a self-proclaimed vlogger infamous for his outlandish stunts and shameless provocations. His followers adored his audacity, but critics labeled him as reckless and disrespectful. Today, Mark was determined to outdo himself. With a confident smirk, Mark gripped an oversized flashlight, its polished metal gleaming under the morning sun. His plan was crude but effective: provoke one of the Queen's guards, capture their reaction, and let the chaos fuel his next viral upload. Standing stoically before the palace gates was Alex Reed, a 30-year-old veteran with a steadfast gaze and an air of unshakable composure. Alex had seen his fair share of disruptions. Years of service in both the military and the Queen's Guard had hardened his resolve, making him a symbol of discipline and unwavering professionalism. His polished boots and perfectly adjusted bearskin hat mirrored his commitment to a role steeped in tradition and honor. While the tourists saw a performer, Alex saw his duty: to represent the crown with dignity, no matter the circumstances. Mark began his antics harmlessly, walking close and mimicking the guardsman's rigid posture, drawing a few chuckles from onlookers. Emboldened by the attention, he stepped closer, tossing sarcastic remarks and waving his hands in exaggerated gestures. The crowd's laughter grew uneasy, and murmurs of discomfort rippled through the air. Then Mark turned on his flashlight. The sharp, focused beam cut through the morning haze and landed squarely on Alex's eyes. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The crowd hushed, unsure whether to intervene or watch as silent witnesses to Mark's audacity. Alex, trained for moments like these, remained as still as a statue. Yet the tension in the air was undeniable, a storm brewing beneath the surface. As the harsh beam of the flashlight seared into Alex's eyes, the physical discomfort was almost secondary to the mental strain. Every nerve in his body urged him to act, to shield himself from the unrelenting glare. But he didn't move. His rigid stance was a testament to years of disciplined training, forged through grueling drills and unwavering expectations. Yet, in that moment, it wasn't just his body being tested, it was his spirit. Flashes of memory crossed his mind like fleeting shadows. The long hours spent perfecting every detail of his role, the sacrifices he had made to uphold the honor of his position, and the pride he had felt the first time he donned the uniform of the Queen's Guard. This wasn't merely a job to Alex. It was a duty rooted in tradition, respect, and a higher sense of purpose. The flashlight's beam wasn't just an assault on his senses. It was an attack on everything he represented. Mark, meanwhile, was reveling in his perceived power. The lack of reaction from Alex only fueled his audacity. Stepping closer, he angled the flashlight deliberately, intensifying the beam as if trying to break the impenetrable wall of composure in front of him. His laughter echoed, hollow and taunting, cutting through the thickening tension like a blade. The crowd, once amused by Mark's antics, had grown uneasy. Quiet murmurs replaced laughter as discomfort spread through the onlookers. Some whispered to each other, their words just loud enough to carry, "This is too much. He's gone too far." Yet no one stepped forward. They watched in silence, caught between the spectacle and their own hesitation to intervene. Alex's turmoil deepened with every passing second. The strict rules of his duty dictated absolute restraint. No reaction, no retaliation, no breaking of form. But beneath the surface, frustration churned like a storm. His pride battled with the suffocating helplessness of being unable to respond. Each second felt like an eternity as the crowd's whispers grew louder, the tension palpable in the cold morning air. And still, Alex stood firm, the embodiment of discipline, while his resolve was tested in ways the onlookers could never truly comprehend. Just as the tension reached its breaking point, a firm, resolute voice sliced through the uneasy murmurs of the crowd. "Stop it! This isn't funny!" All eyes turned toward Emily Carter, a young woman who had been quietly observing the scene unfold from the sidelines. Her words carried a weight that the laughter and whispers could not. The sheer boldness of her interruption stunned the onlookers, creating a ripple of silence that seemed to echo through the air. Even Mark, previously so self-assured in his antics, froze for a moment. The mocking smirk on his face faltered as he turned toward her, momentarily caught off guard by her defiance. Emily's determined gaze bore into Mark, her stance unyielding. She wasn't just speaking for herself. She was channeling the discomfort of the entire crowd. Her voice, though steady, carried a palpable frustration, as if she couldn't stand by any longer while the scene escalated. That split second of distraction was all Alex Reed needed. With a calm precision honed through years of training, he broke his rigid stance. In a single, deliberate motion, he stepped forward and swept the flashlight from Mark's hand with a swift, controlled strike. The beam of light finally disappeared, plunging the scene into a more natural morning glow. The crowd collectively gasped, their breath catching in unison as they processed what had just happened. For a moment, there was only stunned silence. And then, as if a dam had broken, applause erupted. The clapping was immediate and thunderous, a wave of approval that swept through the gathered onlookers. Emily's applause rose above the rest. "Well done," she called out, her voice carrying pride and relief. The crowd echoed her sentiment, their cheers growing louder, drowning out any chance Mark had to regain control of the situation. Mark, visibly embarrassed and suddenly stripped of his bravado, let out a weak, nervous laugh, as though attempting to dismiss the moment. But it was too late. The tide had turned. The once passive audience had rallied behind Alex, their support washing over him in a wave of vindication. For the first time that morning, the mockery was silenced, replaced by an undeniable sense of respect and justice. The video of the incident at Buckingham Palace spread across the internet with remarkable speed. Within hours, it had been shared millions of times, igniting discussions in every corner of social media. The reactions were a stark contrast to what Mark Warren had envisioned. Instead of laughing at his stunt, the public overwhelmingly rallied behind Alex Reed, praising the guardsman's unyielding professionalism and composure in the face of blatant disrespect. Comments poured in from around the globe. "A true example of discipline and dignity," one user wrote. "This is what honor looks like," said another. The sentiment was nearly universal. Alex's actions, or rather his restrained inaction, resonated deeply with people who valued respect and tradition. The hashtags #GuardWithHonor and #StandWithAlex began trending, amplifying the story far beyond the borders of the UK. Later that day, Emily Carter, the woman whose bold intervention had shifted the tide, gave an interview. What Alex did wasn't just about standing his ground. It was about standing up for respect and decency in a world that sometimes forgets what those words mean, she said. Her statement struck a chord with viewers, reinforcing the narrative that Alex's response was a silent yet powerful act of defiance against disrespect. Mark, on the other hand, found himself at the center of a storm of backlash. Social media turned against him with the same fervor that it had supported Alex. Criticism poured in, condemning his actions as juvenile, disrespectful, and attention-seeking. His subscribers dropped in droves, and even his most loyal followers struggled to defend his behavior. Under mounting pressure, Mark issued a public apology, acknowledging his mistake. But the damage was done. His reputation was irreparably tarnished. Through it all, Alex remained steadfast and humble. He returned to his duties with the same quiet dignity he had always displayed, knowing that his actions had spoken louder than words ever could. For those who witnessed the event, both in person and online, it became a lasting reminder. Justice doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes it's found in the silent strength of standing firm against what's wrong. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and let us know in the comments which guard tradition you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.